We will continue with the topic about the experience of cyber investigations in year 2022. And right now, I'm visited by Denis Gedeon, the head of the reaction to the informational security threats, expert center of security positive technologies. Hi, Denis. And Alex Kulkin, the head of the digital forensics IB group. Hello, Alex. Hello. In the beginning, let's speak about a very important topic. If you will compare the load, your personal load as the manager of this direction with the previous year, what are your emotions? What are your comparisons which you can make? Can I
Мне надо, пора бежать, я вам скажу так.
I have to run. That's what I'm saying. We are overloaded, especially starting from the end of February. We just overloaded. It has grown significantly, doubled, tripled, 120 times, maybe 10 times. Previously, we had like 3 investigations, 4 investigations. Right now, we have like 7, 8. And it happens more and more often for the bigger periods of time. It's very complicated and difficult. And what is the difficulty here is that we don't have more people in our team, and the load is distributed all over all of us. And Oleg perfectly understands what I'm speaking about, and it's very hard to find new people. Yes, honestly, we have the same story. And you know, I would tell you that it have not started in January, but in February. I've started reacting 7 a.m. 1st of January this year, because it did happen that practically we already have no people at this moment of time. Yes, we've been planning some graphs, and right now these 2 people, tomorrow these 2 people, in order to cope with this load. But very often, New Year holidays, during New Year holidays, we do have some incidents. For example, traditionally, we do have a lot of incidents related with encoders. And these guys, they love weekends, and we did have a lot of weekends, and they've been activated. They've been really active. And during New Year, we had 3 incidents, and these were not small companies, but very big ones. And as we could see from the investigation, some of them, they spent a lot of time, 6 months, and some of them, they spent 8 months. Those criminals, and they've been preparing themselves pretty well. And 31st of December, when nobody has been looking their network, they just made it encoded. So from 31st to 1st, etc., many IT security guys shouldn't sleep. They should be ready for something to happen. Yes, of course, we are preparing our perimeter. We always are ready. We have mobile phones to get the call. Security guys should see something. The admin, at least, should know how their system lives. They should see which new admin accounts are being created, what's happening in the traffic, what happens in your nodes. So if you know what happens inside, you will immediately see what's wrong and where is it wrong. Well, using this situation, I would like to say hi to my mom. But honestly speaking, out of serious ones, I would like to ask everybody, please close your RDPs. Well, at least VPNs, because there's a lot of encoding. Everything's being encoded. Please close your RDPs and update your exchanges. It's a must-have, minimum at least. Well, because afterwards it's going to be late. But if you don't want to do this, please prepare backups. Backups, this is a top of your requirements. Well, speaking about backups, out of your advices, told me about it. Okay, let's list them. Can you add something to this? Yes, I will add something to this. Denis was speaking about VPN, and there are certain peculiarities because this is a very popular vector of the initial access. And we should have multi-factor authentication, and those appliances which are used for this, we shouldn't have vulnerabilities, because in principle, VPN is not as popular as RDP. But speaking about backups, we also do have problems that, like criminals, they can destroy them, but even if they have it, very often it happens that correctly, their restoration is almost impossible. They've been done, but they never been checked. How can we restore it from them? Recovery plan and its testing should happen all the time, because otherwise no backups are going to help you. Did you see any changes in the goals of the criminals comparing to their previous years, their patterns of behavior? Goals have not changed. The context have changed. Many attacks are of more political character and politically colored. But well, the goals are the same. They are hitting a more like less beneficial for fraudsters, but like media providers, some other things, media things, and things that gonna be known. Even sometimes, very simple attacks like some script kiddies, they could look like a very cool attack, and it will be obvious on many sites, like deface of some site. And what's cool about it, the site uses third-party resources, and some counter of these third-party resources, a common one, it can be replaced. And in all sites, you see a certain image being posted, like, well, you need this as a hacker. So it's a very simple attack, but it's a very loud, and everybody say, well, it has been broken, some cyber army is attacking you. But, this attack is very simple one, and you have to pay attention to small things like that. Basically speaking, attacks have not changed. Attacks that we've seen previously, we see them today. Maybe some new unique backdoors have been created for some particular events. But generally speaking, as it was, that's how it is. But can we say that criminals are trying to have those loud attacks that everybody will hear about them, that, well, these guys have damaged something like that? Oh yes, they love it. They're trying to give significance to even some insignificant attacks. For example, they've copied all open information from the site, which is published on the site. It's available to everybody. They've copied it, they pasted it, and they say, okay, we broke into it, and everything is dedicated to a certain event, to some holidays, whatever. But generally speaking, they just copied site information. Very often, they try to non-qualified hackers, they try to influence the media space. Is there a lot of fakes? For example, they say, well, we broke into this site, please look, these are the consequences. But honestly, no consequences like that happen. Or maybe this is a commonly accessible information, there's no actually attack. Yes, of course, there are fakes, especially when they publish this information and when they say, well, we still have so much information, we'll post it, and they don't post it. But can we share like 5 cases out of 10, 3 out of 10? Well, it goes by waves. Like Denise has made a good example when all the public information has been collected and then they made an appearance that they broke into something, but honestly they did not. But honestly speaking, everything depends on the motivation of the criminals. For example, if you take cyber criminals, their motivation is to earn money. Well, right now, instead of it, they try to collect global stick. They are trying to avoid big goals, so they don't attract attention. There's a lot of attacks, travel, dark side groups. So as a result, it brings us to the situation that they had to do rebranding. Some group participants have been arrested, so they decided, well, these loud attacks, you will not receive any payment, but if you will receive the payment like from dark side, this money will be taken away from you. These cases are happening. So if you will look at the cyber criminality, they are smaller targets. And speaking about motivation, you should look at activists. Yes, we started speaking about it. There's a lot of fakes, and attacks are very different. This could be fakes, this could be just fake from public sources information. And there are full-scale attacks against big organizations with different goals. These could be stealing of some data, public access, and publishing them publicly and saying that, well, this is a state organization, or these organizations wanted to get around sanctions. And yes, of course, there's a lot of situations like that. This is one story. And the second story, another interesting one, which we see in recent 3-4 months, criminals are very actively trying to destroy organizational infrastructure. For example, they use ransomware, but they don't want to receive any ransom. They are trying to destroy. They upload and publish information. AB65, for example, a good example.
есть инструменты и навыки, но они такая...
They have tools and skills.
И,
They are
соответственно,
very serious.
многие используют локеры, причем те, которых раньше... в
Many
России
of them,
не
they
было,
use
но вот
walkers, and those which previously were not available in Russia. For example, there was a Consys leak. Their source code was leaked, and from them they created locker and attacked Russian organizations as Consi, even though it was not them.
нельзя, и цель злоумышленников
And
была
no ransom was paid, and the main objective was to destroy infrastructure. Recently, Lockmeat criminals also took this ransomware. They compiled it for themselves and attacked the organization not to receive ransom, but with the purpose of destroying their infrastructure. So, from the point of view of destruction, we have two things. First of all, it's a reputational damage when information is being published and it's considered as a big leak. And second of all, it's a violation of some internal work processes. Yes. And very often it's impossible to restore anything because backup is destroyed and the keys for deciphering is not provided. Their main goal, they just want to destroy the operation of the organization so that the company wouldn't be able. And why do they have those goals? To stop? And they have these goals right now. Yes, they do. Well, I think it was always like that. Desire to destroy and to get some ransom for it previously. Well, what is the difference for the business? No difference, because your processes are shut down, the company is not working, 1S is not working. That's it. You should work in these categories. So right now, for example, you're working, and right now some hacker is working in your network, and it happens very often that when hackers are in your network for years, it's cyber spying, cyber intelligence. So you have an approach, well, if they're sitting here, let them be. But they can encode everything, and according to the fact, it's the same admin, but it doesn't belong to you. It's not controlled by you, and he can do whatever he wants in your network. So you have to approach it from the point of view, what if? And you should rely on the worst case scenario, and you should look at those events which are inadmissible in your network. Do hackers select some more vulnerable companies? For example, they have an objective that was given to them to attack certain mass media or maybe attack certain production facility. Will they select who is less vulnerable or who is more vulnerable, who is less defended or more defended, or they select not from the point of view of security? Well, hackers are also people. They're also programs. These are people with certain skills, certain abilities, and they also have certain tasks. So I think we cannot say, break this company. Maybe he will break it within 1 year, but they need results right now. So there is a certain balance between who is much easier to be broken. You have resources, you have costs, and then you get the profit. Yes, I do agree with Denise. Yes, they attack less defended companies. And if you look at statistics within this year we see more incidents where initial access was received through the vulnerability to personal applications, like Exchange, and we see more and more of those, significantly 4-5 times more. If previously these were like 2 big layers, like small organizations was RTB or VPN access, and the second class is phishing. Of course, phishing have not disappeared, especially if you speak about attacks against big organizations. There's always phishing. If it's a big organization, more or less, if they're defended, the most vulnerable place for them is their employees. They have a lot of them, and to get access to a certain host through phishing, it's much simpler. However, the trend is available for the exploitation of the applications, and we see more of those attacks, and it's much simpler as well, because criminals, they do understand if the company has a vulnerable application in the SCADA, it means that internally there is no security, and if you will get access, then without any problems you can move around the network, increase your privileges, and you will achieve your own goals. There's another important topic about penetration except for phishing. Contractors do something. For example, they create certain software for the company, and they are given a certain segment of developers where developers can do whatever they want. They have maximum access. It's some kind of a sandbox for the developers. But usually the contracting organizations are very small, they have small security budgets, they are less defended, and they can easily be broken through the phishing. It's the simplest one. And they do receive letters all all the contractors. And through this contractor organization, through these sandboxes for developers, they get into your company. And what is the main idea is that admins gave part of their network to exist without thinking about what's happening inside. And you need the participation of the domain, you can receive privileged data, and then there's nothing else. All your cards are in your hands and you can do anything in the network. And there's another story that there's a certain tested server about which people forget. And then you figure out that from this server, everything started from it, or you forgot about it, or you didn't know. Yeah, some people forget about it, some people didn't know about it. But as a result, well, you have listed several attack techniques through the supply chain, through some vulnerabilities, through AB server, through social engineering. This year, did you see new additional hacker techniques, which did not exist previously, but right now they became top ones? Or everything is very similar from the point of view of their techniques? Approximately, it's all the same. The only thing is that on a step-by-step basis, criminals, they start denying the Cobalt Strike because it's shining like a Christmas tree, and in any infrastructure it can be discovered. So they experiment with new frameworks. For example, Sliber, it's a very popular one, and red teaming specialists, they like it, and real criminals like it. So they try to become more versatile from the point of view of networks. And speaking about the new software, we do see, speaking about using new techniques, well, no. Everybody used Persister, Runkeys, Taskers, or maybe PsExec or other things to move in the network. Basically speaking, everybody uses the same shit. Well, there are certain changes, but there are no global story here. And if you're speaking about the initial access, well, significantly, we see exploitation of the internal applications. Well, as for the other ones, the approaches are similar. Well, can we say that attackers have single set of goals or focus on which they've been focusing this year? Yes, of course, they have the same focus every year. The higher privileged nodes like domain controller, this is a standard goal. You take the domain controller, then they take the domain controller and they do whatever they want to do. Or maybe some nodes like servers, antivirus servers. And this is a very convenient target. With the antivirus, hackers can proliferate their software in the network, or the monitoring system, or DLP. DLP was overtaken, and hackers, they see everything what's happening on the side of any user, or maybe some keylogger was inbuilt in DLP, which records everything, and the person is able to see at the user screen what is being done. What do you mean the DLP is being taken? Well, DLP has its own server, controlled server, centralized. You can approach it and you can see what every user does, or what it was done by every user. So this is a server which controls DLP. Yes, they break this machine and they see what every user does, looking at administrators or some other important business processes for people like, and you don't need any Cobalt Strikes. The breaking into DLP system, you don't have to search for any new attacks, and all attacks, they work perfectly, and the hacker is going to choose the least resistance path. Why do you need to invent something new? Because it takes a lot of resources, a lot of expenses. It's very expensive, and it's not a fact that it's going to work. But if it's going to be discovered by the antivirus, well, all your work is destroyed. Why? It's a good example about antivirus. We had about 3 incidents where criminals have used server, antivirus service, so that through its means they would proliferate the malicious code through the network. And it was the ransomware program. Well, the antivirus should save the organization from this, but as we could see it from the experience, it helped only to the criminals, and these critical nodes should be in the risk part. We should understand what do we defend, and we should defend the means of defense. Another question, Denis, what do you expect next year? Which changes, which goals will be attacked by criminals, and how do you prepare yourselves? Do you increase the team number? Do you create new tool sets? Do you change the principles of your operations? Right now, can you forecast what is going to happen and what you do about it?
мне кажется, что будет увеличение этого всего,
Well,
учитывая,
I
как
think
бы
we will see the
глобальную
increase of all of
экономическую
these,
банальщину,
considering that,
как бы
global
все
economical
начинает становиться
situation
как бы хуже,
and
и получается
people
это
live
фоновое увеличение
worse.
количества
And
цифровых
it's a
преступлений, да?
background for the increase of
Типа
amount of
получается,
cyber
на самом деле,
crimes.
это очень связано
It's
как бы
the
между
direction of Oleg's
какими-то
work, but cyber
преступными
crimes
амбициями
are related with some
людей,
advanced
ну, люди знают,
attacks.
как зарабатывать.
Why?
Соответственно, таких
Because
специалистов
people
могут
have to
нанимать
earn
просто
money.
какие-то
So these
группировки
specialists
ради
can be
своих целей.
invited by some
И, соответственно,
groups
на основе
for
этого
their
растет наша, что с этим делать?
desires.
Что с
And
этим
of course, the
делать? Мы
load
расширяем
will
команду,
grow, and we should do
мы
something about it.
пишем
We are
новый
increasing
софт,
our team,
оптимизируем
we
софт,
write our
делаем
own
его как бы
software, we optimize this software, and we develop it in
меньше
such a way
было
so
расследований,
that
скажем так.
less
Что
people
такое
would do
софт? Что это?
investigations.
Ну,
What do you
это
mean? What kind of
централизованные
software? What it
сканеры,
does? It's a
можно сказать,
centralized
некоторые кастомные
scanners,
антивирусы, поисковики индикаторов
custom
компрометации,
antiviruses,
процессинговые вещи, когда
compromising
просто вводишь
processing programs
информацию,
when
какой
you
результат
put,
выдается.
a pile of
Ну, такие
information and then you get some
да-да-да,
result from it.
наши
So you
процессы
try
такое
to
делают.
automate it
Вот,
as much
поэтому
as
несколько
possible. Yeah, we
количество
automate our
людей
process as much as possible. And as
задача
any
как
IT
раз
person, as any
автоматизировать свою работу.
security person, we should automate our
Мы
work.
активно, на самом
Oleg,
деле,
what
используем
about you?
EDR-решения,
Well,
и
we
как минимум
actively
мы
use
просим
EDR
помощи у
solutions and
нашего СОКа
we ask for help
иногда,
from
хотя бы,
our
чтобы было
SOC
поспать
once in a
ночью
while,
иногда,
at least
когда у
to
тебя
be able
очень
to
много
sleep at
звонков.
night
Ну и, безусловно,
sometimes when you have a lot of
автоматизация в том
incidents. But
числе
undoubtedly,
помогает. Ну и
the
плюс
automation
у
helps
нас
you. In
традиционно
addition to that,
еще ряд
we
образовательных программ,
traditionally
поэтому
have a number
своих
of
клиентов, своих
educational
новых клиентов
programs. So
стараемся еще и
our
обучать,
clients, our new
чтобы
clients are
как
being
минимум
trained
клиенты на
constantly
первых
so that
этапах
at least
возникновения
our
инцидента
clients at
могли,
their first
скажем
stages in
так,
case of
пересдать
incident
нужные
appearance,
машины, снять
they
какие-то
wouldn't
данные
destroy
вовремя,
the
чтобы
machines, they
процесс,
would
то
collect
есть
all necessary
раскрывать
data, and so that
инцидента,
all processes would be
наиболее
covered,
важные этапы
especially in
обычно
the
берут
process of
там 1,
incident
2, 3 дня, в
investigation,
зависимости,
because
естественно,
usually
по
first
масштабу.
two,
И чтобы
3
вот этот
days, depending on the
процесс
scale of the
укоротить
event,
максимально
so that
быстро, можно
in
было
order to
начать
reduce this
устанавливать
process
инфраструктуру,
and
чтобы
to be able
команда
to install
заказчика, она
infrastructure at
какие-то базовые
ASAP,
вещи
the
могла делать.
client's team
Тогда
should
все
have
очень
at
быстро
least
и четко,
basic
и,
knowledge
соответственно,
about
можно
things like that. Then it's
справляться
going to be
с большим
fast and
количеством
clear,
инцидентов
and
в
then you
меньшее
will be
время.
able
Потому
to
что,
cope
естественно,
with bigger
в
number
первую
of
очередь
incidents for one unit of time.
и
Because
киберкрайм, и
first thing,
террористов и так далее, в
the
первую очередь
criminals
нужно
of the
избавиться от
well, those who
незваных
are
гостей из
vulnerable to
системы,
cybercrime,
начать
they
устанавливать
should
инфраструктуру,
kick
чтобы
out the
бизнес
guests
или
from
там,
the
так
network and restore
организация
the
могла дальше
infrastructure
спокойно
so that
работать. А уже
business or the
потом говорить
organization
все
could
эти
work
вещи
on.
касательно
But
расследования. Поэтому,
only
безусловно,
then
что
you
очень
should
важно,
go
это все-таки во вторую
start the
очередь.
investigations
И
and
чтобы
intelligence. But this is a
быстро можно
secondary
было
thing.
все восстановить,
So,
нужно,
in
чтобы
order
в
to
том
be able
числе
to
и
restore
крупные
everything
организации
ASAP,
могли
you
быстро
should train
сказать, что
your
это где-то
company
собрать,
employees so
ключевые
that they
узлы можно
would
было опять
collect all the
перезагрузить и
necessary
дальше
information and that
как-то вводя в
key
отдельный
nodes would be
сервер,
assembled
например,
and
будет
then
работать.
you can put
Последний у
them
меня к вам
into a
вопрос.
separate node in network. Well, define the question I have to
Три
you.
вещи, которые нужно сделать
By making
прямо
priorities,
сейчас
can you
для того,
prioritize the
чтобы
top three things
подготовиться
which have to be
к
right
1
now in
января?
order
Ну,
to
кроме
get
того,
ready
что
for the
1 января
January
надо работать
1st?
тоже.
Well,
Ну,
considering that you will have to work at 1st of
топ-1,
January.
это на 1
Well, top
января,
one is
ну, выключить
1st
свою
of
сеть для
January.
компьютера.
Right? Switch off your network, switch off all your computers. That's the first thing you have to do.
Импровизация.
Заказчиков не согласятся
It's an impromptu, but most of the clients will not agree with you.
Что не
Of course,
работает,
it's
его
a
нельзя
joke,
взломать.
but nevertheless,
Хотя бы
if it doesn't work, you cannot break it. At least you have to build certain minimal monitoring, and you should have at least one person who watches what really happens with your network. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Otherwise, he will go to his. Well, everything has to be updated. Minimal things we've been speaking about previously. RDP should be removed, and exchanges have to be updated. So the whole system should be updated. So we should install antiviruses everywhere. Antiviral checks should be conducted all the time. And you should look at the analysis report. And if these reports are happening, you should clear out why this is happening. So the first thing is the mainly desire to do something about it. And you should understand that in any case, if you have anything valuable, you will be broken in. The fact that they didn't come to you, it's a fact. You can do backups. You can make backups and separate them from the working network because very often this story. Do you have backups? Yes. Well, they also have been encoded because they were in the same network, so you have to separate them from the network, put them in some storage facility or some separate place.
Ну, наверное, первое, это, как Денис уже, в принципе, сказал,
Well, the first one out of my top three, like Denise said, we have to provide the fact that for the criminals there shouldn't be low-hanging fruits like LTP outside, some easily exploited public servers, the absence of the antivirus or mail protection in order to get protected from phishing. That's the story number one that we have to do 100%. Next one, in any case, you need monitoring for yourself or external monitoring. An organization cannot be protected without it. As we've been discussing it today, antivirus helps you only if you have people who look into it and who understand what it tells them. Otherwise, criminals will use it just to distribute the ransomware in the network. It has to be 24/7 monitoring because criminals, they don't work during the day, they work during the night. So if you have an incident, if you don't have competencies, you should have provider who will help you. Thank you very much, guys. Dear friends, we have several trends that we have seen this year. First of all, hackers attack not with the purpose of stealing money. They attack with the purpose of bringing damage to reputation or to stop the production facility processes. This is not money. It's not about the money. It's a serious damage to the company. And to withstand this growing number of hacker attacks, first of all, they increase the number of their team, and you have to automate defense measures because we speak about automation of discovery, about automation of cybersecurity.